It sounds crazy, but if you want to make the Olympic team in men's and women's freestyle wrestling, you basically need to win at Final X this year. And that sounds like, well, that's not really the process. But I think a lot about the process is important to recognize here. And you'll kind of understand why I believe it's true. And I think you'll probably be left with the same conclusion. Now, I made a video a week or so ago about the Jaden Cox, Kyle Snyder matchup. And our guy, Travis Shives, he's a big fancy guy. You know, he's VP of FloWrestling. He's a big deal. Wrestling man through and through. And he was like, man, I kind of forgot about the dynamic of if you make Final X and win a world medal, you're sitting out to the Olympic trials finals. And so then I kind of realized, this is a lesson I learned probably twice a week, like how much we take for granted that we just assume is just sort of known, right, by you, the wrestling fan, because we are in this very unique and praise the Lord, awesome opportunity where we just think about wrestling, 24/7. That's just sort of our job. We're paid to do that, but you aren't probably. And so we're in a pretty cool spot, but we forget a lot of things. So Travis reminded me, like, maybe you guys don't realize this, how important it is to make the team at Final X. So what's going to happen on June 10th? That is how we pick our world team. Okay. That's how that happens. You have to win 2 out of 3 matches. One match doesn't get it done. You got to win 2 out of 3, that series on June 10th. If you do that, you make it to the World Championships. You will wrestle for Team USA in Belgrade, Serbia in September. Now, why this has such a direct tie to making the Olympic team is this. One, if you medal at the World Championships, and some of you may know this, but there's other details within this. If you medal at the World Championships, you are sitting out to the Olympic trials finals. But why that is such an advantage is if you look at the track record of success for Team USA, making a team at the Olympic weights is, at some weights, all but a guarantee of a medal. But at bare minimum, it is highly, highly likely that you will come home with a medal at these Olympic weights. So if you don't know, World Championships, there's 10 weights. It's great. It's a nice, even distribution. Olympic years, it shrinks down to 6 weight classes. So 10 weights worth of talent gets scattered into 6 different weights. And it makes, obviously, all the weights significantly tougher, right? And it makes it tougher to make the team. So what happens is if you medal at the World Championships, you sit out, right? I've mentioned that. But what makes it so interesting is that since 2017, we have medaled at a 70% rate at the Olympic weights. Since 2017. And that's with 65 basically jamming it up. We only have 1 medal since 2017 there, right? We only have 1 medal since 2006, actually. And so when you factor that in, I mean, and there's some weights where we medal every single year. At 74, we've medaled every single year. At 86, we've medaled all but 1 year. At 97, thanks to Kyle Snyder, we've medaled every single year since 2017. Okay? So now you say, well, that just gets you to the finals, right? Well, here's what's most advantageous about it. And while making it to Final X is, and having that bye to Final X is a big deal, and there's a lot of wrestlers that are taking advantage of that opportunity, right? Gilman, Taylor, Dake, Burroughs, Snyder, etc. They all have been in Final X since they wrestled at last year's Worlds. That's when they punched their ticket there. But Final X is, for a better word, it's more fair, right? And I'm not into the is it fair, is it not fair thing. It's that I'm not worried about that. I'm just explaining to you it is more fair because there is a period of weeks and months, and in some cases nearly a year, where the athletes get to sit out, relax, recover, and wrestle the 2 out of 3 series. At the Olympic trials, that is not so. That is not the case. So if, for example, Kyle Dake wins Worlds or just medals, gets one of the 2 bronze medals, he is sitting out to the Olympic trials finals. Okay. Now that is more significant because there is no US Open that feeds into Final X. There is no World Team Trials that feeds into Final X. There is one tournament. It's at the exact same time. So whoever makes the Olympic team is going to have to go through that entire tournament. We'll use 74 as an example. If you're Keegan O'Toole, if you're David Carr, if you're Jordan Burroughs, you're going to have to go through that entire bracket and then wrestle Kyle Dake 2 out of 3. And this was Kyle Dake's big complaint over the years about how we picked our team. He's like, dude, it's not right. That doesn't make sense that I have to beat Andrew Howe and Trent Paulson and David Taylor on the same day. And then in that same day, I have to beat Jordan Burroughs twice. That's crazy. That's ludicrous. Now, a lot of that was so difficult because you have to beat Jordan Burroughs. But his point still holds. It is still much, much more difficult to make the team, right? And this is why we saw Spencer Lee throw his hat in the ring, because he sees the advantage here. He's like, man, I know I'm not that healthy, but if I can win the Open and be in Final X, chances are if I make that team, I'm coming home with a medal, which means I'm sitting out. That is such an advantage. That's what brought a frankly injured or not healthy, we'll say, a not healthy Spencer Lee to the U.S. Open. That fact, that advantage. That's why you see guys. And so if you consider the daunting task that is, that you have to wrestle through the entire tournament, then beat someone 2 out of 3, yeah, you want that bye. And yeah, to get that bye, you're going to have to win at Final X, right? Because it doesn't matter how deep the weight is. If you're Kyle Dake, 74 might be the deepest weight you only have to beat one guy. You don't have to beat one person. You probably know who it's going to be. And so it's what's interesting about it is sort of flipped, because Burroughs previously had that bye for the previous Olympic trials. Now it's going to be flipped because Burroughs is up at 79, Dake's down at 74. So even if Jordan Burroughs wins the World Championships, this is another note. If you medal at a non-Olympic weight, you do get something. It's not the advantage of sitting out to the finals, but you do get something. Team USA wrote in a little carve out where you can get a bye to the Olympic trial semis. Now that's something. So that means you have to win your semi and then the challenge tournament final. So you have to win 2 matches. So if, for example, Jordan Burroughs brings home a medal, probably a gold one, he's going to start in the semis at the Olympic trials next year. And then I'll have to win the semis, win the finals, then beat Dake twice. Okay. So it's a big, tough road for whoever does it. And that's why winning right now, June 10th, if you want to be on that Olympic team, it is imperative, essential. It's not required, but it is such a huge, huge advantage, a huge step in the process to making the Olympic team in 2024.